deputies overtime? This is great. I love it. We're back on the Morning Brew, and we are here with some of Bernalillo County's finest. And they walked in. I think half the crew just went, "Oh my God! All the sheriff's deputies are here," and they were all wondering, if they had warrants or something. Do you get that a lot? Do people like?
Absolutely.
You show up to a restaurant and people are like, "Oh no, it's the sheriff."
I do it. We get that all the time.
That's awesome.
It's totally fine. Why would anyone be nervous? No one's nervous. We're totally cool back here.
No one's sweating at all in the back, right?
No, it's fine.
Because you guys brought, there's the three of you guys, there's a couple more guys over here, and there's another guy over here, all from the sheriff's office, and which is surprising because you guys are also in the middle of a recruiting drive, am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
So how many officers do you guys need? How many deputies?
Well, you know what, typically we hire 10 over, but our staffing...
10 over what?
10 over our maximum strength, which is 303 allotted, and because of projected losses through attrition and what have you, we'll actually hire over. Because as we go through that process, we're going to lose people in the academy process.
Do you guys use the APD Academy, or do you go to the state academy? Do you have your own academy? I don't even know.
Anton, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, we have our own academy. It's a regional academy, which we do accept individuals from other departments, from smaller departments around the state. Torrance
So you guys
County,
work with
Sandoval
Hobbs
County.
or...
Well, not that far down, but usually around our area.
Okay.
So Valencia County, Torrance County, Sandoval County, those agencies, small agencies around us. So it is a regional academy that we run.
And to give you an example, like right now we have 5 Rio Rancho officers that we're training right now.
Oh,
we'll
good.
go to the police department.
Very cool. And Broderick, how hard is the academy? Is it one of those things that like I could go out there and pass it, or do you need to like have martial arts training and?
Well, I'd say you'd have to be driven, and law enforcement would have to be a calling for you. It's not easy for anyone. It's quite strenuous on the physical side. We have a rigorous academic schedule also.
Right, because you can't just know the physical stuff. You have to know some of the legal things, and you almost get a degree in criminal justice on your way through it, right?
I wouldn't say that much, but you get a pretty well-rounded education in law enforcement.
Yeah. What was the most surprising thing when you guys went through that academy? What did you guys learn that you were like, oh my God, cops do this?
Yeah. For me, it was the law block. I mean, there's going through the law block of it. There's a lot of laws you have to learn, and there's a lot of minute laws that you don't realize are there that we have to enforce.
Like just all the simple traffic stuff and jaywalking and that kind of thing, or is it?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's that. When you got all the felony stuff you have to deal with, different degrees of felonies, different degrees of misdemeanors, and how to apply those laws when we're out on the streets. And so.
Right. I can only imagine all of the stuff you have to keep in your head, because you can't have a cheat sheet when you're out there in the field, right?
No, you can have a cheat sheet. Yeah, you can.
You can?
Yeah,
is there really
absolutely.
one?
Absolutely.
Shows how much I know about law enforcement.
No, there's so many laws, but typically there are cheat sheets. There's other things that have been passed down through, let's say, other generations of law enforcement that have been passed on to us. So.
Very cool. Very cool. So what kind of interest are you guys getting? Are you guys finding a lot of people applying to be part of the academy?
We're getting quite a bit of interest on one of our programs, the Community Security Aid Program. We had over 104 applicants for 21 positions so far.
Very cool. What is that program? I don't know what that is.
It's the Community Security Aid Program. What they would do is they'd go out, they'd assist officers on traffic stops. They'll work in our public safety center. They'll man a post in the jail in MDC.
And they're folks who may not be. Are they sworn officers? Are they sworn deputies, or are they like
It's
another kind of
community security aid? It's not a sworn law enforcement position. It is what we'd like to call our stepping stone to becoming a deputy here in Bernalillo County.
Oh, okay, cool. So you prove yourself in that position, and then it's easier to get into the next level.
Yes.
That's very cool. So how did you guys all become officers? I know you've been an officer for what?
Since 1989.
Since '89. Oh my gosh. And for you, I know you've been on the show before. We talked about how it was a calling for you. I mean, you just felt like it was something that you had to do with your life, right?
Well, one of those things that came to my attention was the Ride Along program. So I would really encourage anyone to go along to see if that's for you. I think that's where it sparked my interest.
And as like a 19-year-old, you like hopped in a car?
No, I was 25, and I went on that ride along, and immediately I knew it was almost like meeting my wife. I felt like this is something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable. I like the atmosphere. I like the people there, climate. It was really nice. So I pursued it, still feel the same way today.
Very cool. You guys have similar stories, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. It was going to college. I didn't think I was going to get into law enforcement. I had a friend that said, "Hey, let's go try out for the sheriff's department." I didn't even know where the sheriff's department was at the time. And I lived here my whole life, and I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll go try out." And I showed up, and he didn't, and here I am.
And who you are, and how many years later?
15 years later.
15 years later.
Yeah.
And Broderick, how long have you been an officer?
15 years.
15
Anton
years.
and I, we were lucky enough to go through the academy together. I did 8 years in the military. After my career in the military, I wanted to be active in this community. I applied at the Sheriff's Department. I was selected, and I kind of fell in love with what I do.
Very cool. Well, I know that APD has had struggles getting officers, and they're trying to staff up as well. I mean, is there competition for recruits with those guys? Is there some challenges?
Yes, sir. I guess you could say we're fishing out of the same pool.
Right.
Oftentimes what draws from that pool is things like these military initiatives that are going on outside the country.
Right.
So oftentimes that population is gone, but we're actively seeking people throughout our community. I think one of the best ways for us to get referrals is word of mouth. But oftentimes we look at these advertisement efforts also to get people interested, or just really to better understand what our department does.
Right. Well, how is Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department different from the city APD? I mean, I know there's subtle differences, right? Other than
Subtle mean the fact we're a much smaller agency. We're
Right.
more of a family-oriented group. There's 302 sworn in our agency. We know all of
Everyone.
our people. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And we are, the majority of us, of the guys in this department, live in this community.
Right.
And that tends to bring a different energy about. The deputies want to do the best for the people that live in their neighborhood, that they grew up with, that they went to high school with, things
Right.
of that nature.
Right. And so when you're looking for people who are going into the academy, what are some of the 3 or 4 things, the qualities you want people to have as they're going through the academy? People, like if I have some buddies, I have a couple of friends I can think of that might make a great officer, but I don't know, what are the qualities that might...
As a lieutenant of our academy, I'd
Yeah.
like to see a strong sense of community. What have you done in this community? What values?
Have you volunteered?
Yes,
Have you?
things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And then just that connection. Do family ties matter?
Yes, because you want to serve the community as opposed to what can the community do for you.
Right.
When you're a kid, when you work here, when you've gone to high school in the Albuquerque community, you want to give the best effort to your community.
Do you have to be physically strong? I think that's one of the things a lot of people think of. Is when you think of an officer, you think of guys, that are built more like you. They're larger and physically, large, imposing officers. But that's not necessarily a thing, is it? No. And you just have to have you have to run a mile in 15 minutes.
Our entry level standards are that you're able to run a mile in 15:30.
Okay.
1 mile and a half in 15 minutes and 38 seconds.
All right, Director Dan, it's on you and me. We're gonna see if we can run that.
Dude, I got this.
I don't know, man.
We're going down, Mayfield.
We'll see what
There
happens.
can only be one Dan.
With enough coffee, I might be able to do it.
That'll be.
We'll be back in a couple of seconds with the Morning Brew.